Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome, everyone, to Tech Magic, where we talk about everything that is currently happening in the state of technology. From wearables to, yes, we do have to talk about AI. I think today's going to be a very AI-heavy conversation. We kind of get in those ruts a little bit. We talk about the future of virtual reality, gaming, and everything else that's in between. Normally, I'm joined by the incredible Cathy Hackl, but she's not here. So we have a special guest who I'm excited to introduce you to, Andrew Schwartz. Now, before we get too far and let Andrew say anything, Andrew is responsible solely, it's entirely his fault, for coining the phrase Godmother of the Metaverse for Cathy, which has now followed her for a good chunk of her career. Is that not true?
It is true. It's absolutely true. This is what happens when you get snarky on Twitter and suddenly you end up changing people's lives. It's a beautiful thing.
All right. So explain to people how. I find it really funny that your first time on the show isn't with Cathy. It's with me. So I like that. That's fun. So, okay, please help our audience understand where in the world Godmother of the Metaverse came from.
Absolutely. So I'm I just love information. I love finding information. I was one of the early bloggers. I'm constantly looking for information and I love sharing it. So while I'm doing my laps of the various feeds and internet, I kept seeing, oh, this is something I should talk about. And then I noticed this person, Cathy Hackl, who had already talked about it. I was going to post something. She'd already been there. She was everywhere I was about to be. And at one point I was going through my feed and I saw Alexis Ohanian from, of Reddit fame and all of the amazing things he's done, say, who should I follow in this space to really understand what's going on? And the only response I had was, you've got to follow Cathy Hackl. She's the godmother of the metaverse. And in my mind, it was always more Corleone, more than,
Bippity boppity boo.
Yeah, more Corleone than bippity boppity boo. But what was interesting was that, I've gotten to know Cathy. I know her work. I knew of her work before this. It was entirely just kind of the thing that she was like, Visa. She's everywhere I wanted to be. And she was always ahead of the game. She still continues to be. And the Godmother of the Metaverse thing kind of took off because not only did it work for what she was doing, but it was also just a really nice way of being able to introduce her. I was thrilled. Nothing made me happier than seeing somebody who's really, really on top of things, really vibrant, really interested, and really promotion oriented for everybody else in this industry to be able to get some spotlight for it. So it was really exciting for me. So she became godmother of the metaverse. It's my fault. I got a lovely gift card from her shortly thereafter, but it's turned into a really great conversation, really great friendship between her and I as well.
So honestly, I am surprised that you and I, prior to this show, we obviously had a call last week. We talked about you coming on the show and all that, and we had a great conversation. But prior to that, you and I don't know each other, which is super weird.
Yeah.
because we both work in the same technology and we both worked for the same company. You're also Nikean? What? I don't know what the
Absolutely.
right term is.
Also of Nike.
Of Nike.
Of
I like
Nike,
Nikean.
yes.
I like Nikean.
Nikidian? Yes.
Nikean?
I kid you not. Yeah. So also from Nike. Yeah, it is really strange. It's a small world we all live in. I'm sure even a lot of the folks that are listening today know those of us that are on these things. And I caught one of the threads you put up about 3 weeks ago and didn't realize it was you talking about the very clean news feed thing that you were putting together. And I thought that was just really very cool. And the way that you were filtering news around. It is fascinating to me the way I've had a chance to meet. And yeah, I am coming from Nike, and I was Director of Metaverse Engineering there as the first person with Metaverse in the title.
So did you, I'm just going to press a little bit. Does that mean that you worked on like Nike getting into Roblox and that whole campaign? Like, so what does that mean?
So where I sat was in a group called the Technology Innovation Office, which was really focused not on what's now or what's next, but what comes after that. How do you bring emerging technology in? And Nike owns this brilliant patent that they call CryptoKicks, but it's really the patent that ties physical and digital things together using blockchain identity. One of the first things I did was build some marketplace work around blockchain. We ended up working inside of NFTs. We ended up working with XR and AR and VR work. We ended up working with some video product and trying to figure out new ways of being able to integrate all the things that were happening inside the spatial world into the production and connection to consumers. And it was really, really fascinating and fun. What does it mean? It's really was a way of talking about metaversal technologies. And metaverse is a terrible word. I know it. I have used it enough. And I don't even think about it. And I used to make this joke. It's metaverse isn't a place you go. It's a place you do. It's a thing about action. And it's a spectrum. And on one hand, you've got like all of the identity-based stuff, the crypto, the Bitcoin, all that numbers-based stuff that ties a unique identity to a unique thing. And on the other hand, you've got experience. And all that experience are things like video games to the furthest extent of that. It's where these two pieces come together that is this space that we're already living in. And I think about the way that everything around us has data, that from where you're sitting in that room to where I am to just the data around us, like the wind speed, the temperature, the data we create, the path I choose to go from point A to point B. All of this data that surrounds us is sitting out there, and these metaversal technologies are ways for us to be able to use it. And then we've got this wonderful thing coming around, the AI, generative AI. And AI is really great at turning that data and organizing it into information that we can use and presenting it back to us. It's those methods of presenting things back to us that are able to tap into all of the things that have hit on all the hype cycles that we've had over the last 5-6 years. So everything from blockchain for identity or AR, VR, or augmented audio, or contextual based prompting, all of these things come back to us in ways that we can use. And that's the space that I play in.
I'm going to ask you the looming question that no one has an answer for. And this is a total setup because
Absolutely.
You can't answer this. But I agree that every technology has a hype cycle. Every single one of them, down to probably the number 2 pencil. But where are we on this AI hype cycle? Because on one hand, I've never been so unimpressed by an impressive technology. Like, that's a weird thing. Like, that's a weird way to look at it. Like, I am genuinely, it is an incredibly impressive technology, and yet I am just meh. And I think a lot of the world is. Have we hit that trough of disillusionment? Are we approaching it, in your opinion? Do you think that that's where that's going?
What's been interesting is to see how the momentum kicks up again and again with new and different toys that people use to be able to create something that is interesting in and of itself. Everything that's novel ends up being normal again. That's the kind of revolution of things. Yeah. And I think where we are with AI is like we've seen really great things. I remember the excitement of DALL-E when you could get an image from text.
Yeah.
And then, the excitement of using ChatGPT and suddenly being able to write long things, and Claude being able to program, or Lovable, being able to say, here, give me, I used to do this all the time, use this meeting agenda and make a 1980s TV sitcom theme song out of it so I can send it out to everybody on the call to realize just how dumb this meeting is. These are things that each time that the capability gets bigger, we fall back on some kind of fun way of playing with it. Sora is a great example of that right now. But if you look at all of these hype cycles, they've all been, here's something really big, bright, and shiny. And then after everybody throws money at it and it builds up and it falls down, only the things that come after that are based on the use of it as an idea. Look at the shift from Web 1 to Web 2 20 years ago. The idea, the .com boom that exploded after Pets.com put on that Super Bowl ad. And the guys behind Razorfish were on 60 Minutes not talking about developing websites. When the .com boom went bust, the only things that were left were people who had good ideas, good strategies, and could use the technology as part of their business, not as the sole reason for their business. And we got Web 2 out of that, and we've lived in it for the last 20-some years.
A lot of bad ideas, you're right, like they kind of get blown into the wind, and what is a legitimate idea remains. And I've always been a proponent that there are incredible use case tools for generative AI and for LLMs. I honestly think that Apple, I've said this many times, and I'm not an Apple fanboy. I'm quite the opposite of it, but I give credit where credit is due. And Apple's very minimal integration of what Apple Intelligence is that is not impressive to anybody else is my favorite thing in the world, because it does the thing I need it to do consistently on my machine, and I don't have to worry about it as a writer. I can utilize it for grammar checking. I can have it kind of change a tone pretty quickly, and it doesn't go so far off kilter that I'm getting a bunch of nonsense. And that's because it's not overly impressive. It's just reliable. And I think that that's a big part of where Sora is a very interesting topic, because any other time, Sora would have been just absolutely incredible. And I think its initial launch got a lot of people's attention. But then it quickly became, I don't know about you, my Instagram is very interesting right now, because if I scroll through Reels, it's just like the bad results of Sora prompts. And they're genuinely hilarious. Like, I don't know how many small forests we cut down for this type of humor, but it is genuinely funny content because of how humorously bad it is. Now, that doesn't mean everything Sora puts out is wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not consistently correct. To the point that Jack Dorsey himself, we were talking about this briefly. This is very interesting. I loved Vine when, in the 2010s era. Yep. The first idea of short form content that could stream to your phone and be clear, and you could watch it and you could just go through it, and it was a total time suck, totally. And then Vine went away, then we got TikTok, and then YouTube Shorts and Instagram and blah blah blah, and now it's there. Vine is evidently kind of back through Jack Dorsey bringing something called Divine back, with a caveat that there's no AI generated content on it.
Right. Which is, again, it's interesting when you think about the formats of it. Like, Vine was something that was very much the camera's watching a scene. I'm doing a bit. Every Vine that went big was doing a bit.
Yes.
And when it went away, when Musical.ly turned to TikTok and TikTok started kicking up, it was more about this one-to-one, like the person staring at the camera. And I truly believe that part of the reason that TikTok became so successful was the intimacy of somebody who's presenting themselves and looking you in the eye while they're talking to you, even if they're just doing a dance, even if they're just telling a story. It's that one-to-one of having somebody tell you the story. And then we get onto the things where the in the same way that Twitter's feed was picked up across everything, TikTok's videos are put about everywhere. But then here's Sora, which doesn't have that authenticity of a person talking to a camera, but can have me and William S. Burroughs playing cards together at a bar on Pluto. And it looks like we're doing it for real, but we're not, because he's dead. And it's fascinating to me to see that now we have these vignettes that pop up on Sora that are really, they're fascinating, but there's no control at all to it.
To that point, there's an Axios article that I put in our rundown that talks about warning brands like Coca-Cola, Walmart, even Nike, that generative AI and adopting that into your messaging services, mostly advertisement, right, is pretty risky. There's a risk for misinformation. There's a risk for impersonation, automated negative campaigns, blah, 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 blah. The one thing that wasn't in this article, and I didn't put it in the rundown, is, have you seen Coca-Cola's Christmas AI ad?
I have. And the people behind it, super talented people. The people behind AI at Coke are super talented. And I know they're trying to do, well, I suppose, they're trying to do with this art form of managing generative AI to coax it into the creative you want, what Coca-Cola has done for Christmas since it started. Santa's red and white for a reason. Yeah. And I think it's really fascinating, but the balance between what Coca-Cola will do with its 70,000 prompts and however many different adjustments they had to make.
70,000 prompts. Let's stop right there for a second. 70,000 prompts to get this ad, which arguably is still not correct. Mm-hmm. There were plenty of things, if you paid really close attention, were still incorrect with this ad. 70,000 prompts. That seems like a lot of man hours that could have just made the ad, but I don't know. I can't put that in perspective.
It feels like it, doesn't it? It feels like it's not just one person. Obviously, there's a team of folks doing this stuff, but that is just an immense amount of effort put together to try to build something that could be done without this, or could be done in tandem with this. And I think, that's one of the key things. I can't remember the name of the artist. She was the first person to do a cover for Vogue magazine, and it was AI. It was based off of DALL-E, and she did about 300 or so different prompts to kind of get it together. And it was very well done, but it was obviously, it was touted as the first AI cover for Vogue. 70,000 prompts for a commercial, and it changes what you're doing. In all of the hype cycles we're talking about, if the technology comes before the outcome, you've got candy. But if the outcome is created in hand with technology, then you've got something of value. And I think that's where things are spitting out. You've got Sora, which can do incredible things. You've got, Meta AI can do really interesting stuff. Gemini and Nana Banana and all of these other video generative space, Runwave, and they're doing really incredible work, but they're placing the novelty of, and it was created with AI at the forefront of it.
Like, that's the selling point.
That's the selling point.
Right. Not that it's as good or better than what a person can make, but that the output is much to Coca-Cola's credit, which I think was wildly risky. They left. You can go to Coca-Cola's YouTube channel, you can watch the advertisement, and they left the comments open. Yeah. I guess good on them for transparency's sake, because those comments are gnarly. So back to the Axios article, you come from a big brand, you have big brand experience. Is it worth the risk?
It depends on what you're doing, because sometimes having those little mistakes shows that you're trying. And sometimes trying could be part of your branding. I come from big brand, but I was a brand strategy consultant for a lot of years too. And I understand that part of what you do to elicit a reaction is to try to be as true to who you are and true to the relationship you have with your audience as possible. Right. And getting to that point is really important. But I used to have this great art director I worked with. His name was Adam Smith, just like The Economist. And he said to me, it's not creative if it doesn't sell. He says, if it doesn't sell, we're not in the business for that. It's art. I love art, he says, but we're in the business to say we make something to make somebody else do something. And there's some squishiness there, because imperfection can be really valuable. Imperfection can be really great.
It is worth noting that this is probably the first time I ever felt like talking about a Coca-Cola Christmas commercial. Like, I kind of get it. But it comes from a negative connotation. I think for a lot of people, at least that's the main complaint. Now there was some aspects of it that commercial looked beautiful, and I do encourage people to jump on YouTube, look it up, go watch it. It's a 60-second ad, and it looks very familiar to every other Coca-Cola Christmas commercial is. I just kind of was a little surprised that, one, Coca-Cola Christmas commercials are very iconic, and it's like up, for me at least, it's up there with like Pepsi doing like Super Bowl commercials, right? Like, the Christmas Coca-Cola commercials coming. Huge risk for a brand that large to take the big thing they're known for and go all in on, okay, we're going to generate an AI commercial ad in an era right now where that's not necessarily, not only that it's not giving you the best input, it's also not like seen in the best light. Because there is the whole replacing people who do work. Although 70,000 prompts sounds like someone had a lot of work.
A lot of work done there,
Maybe it's not.
No agents are going to want to do that. It's interesting when you think about, in general, the kind of the art of attention gathering, and perhaps that gamble made sense because, like you said, we're talking about this now, and it is showing up in Axios, and it is a topic of conversation, and it does not misrepresent the brand, and the imperfections that are there, it's not as kind of iconic and beautiful as the panda bears, as the polar bears were a few years back. It's may not be like the Hershey's Kiss jingle that created Pixar.
Right. They're not going to reuse this for like the next decade, right? Like if they're still showing the same AI ad next year, I'll be absolutely shocked.
But if you think about where they are with it, here's a state-of-the-art technology gamble by one of the largest, media creators in the world. And it's showing that, we're going to try something. I'll give them credit for that. Separate from the art direction, separate from the copy strip, not thinking advertising, thinking attention gathering. There's some value to it. I think that it's interesting though, because you mentioned, the trough of despair. There's also that uncanny valley that you start getting into when you start recognizing the distance between what you expect reality to look like and what you're seeing and where things fit in and how that sits.
That ad is a really good example because if you watch it, it looks really good. It genuinely looks really good. And when I say there are things wrong in the ad, you need to pause the video to even see them. They are not, you will not see them on your first pass. They're not noticeable by the naked eye. And yet there's a sheen to it that as a person who is also taken in a ton of digital animation in their lifetime, can still look at that and go, that looks like AI, although nothing is wrong. Yeah. All of the fingers and toes are there, right? Like the nose is where the nose is supposed to be. The eyes are where they're, but yet there's a sheen to it that strikes me. And I find this across the board that even when I'm reading stuff, I can, and it's not just like the M dash, right? Like that's the big tell. There's a vernacular and there's a pattern to the writing. There's a rhythm to it that does not feel human, but it doesn't feel artificial either on first pass. And where I'm going with this is right now on the Billboard charts, me as a musician, I'm paying really closely and from Nashville and worked in country music for a very long time. I've got country music songs that are published by huge country music artists. And right now, one of the top country music songs on the chart is an entirely AI generated song. It's okay. I get why it sounds good. It's about as deep as a thimble, but I guess I'm just not surprised. But it sounds like there's still something about like the second you listen to the words, you're like, yeah, this does not feel like it was written by a person, but it sounds great. It does sound very good. And it is on a chart. I don't think that means it's selling. It just means that it's charting.
Yeah.
I don't know where
played places.
It's getting played places. Now, with that said, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I think where are you located?
I'm outside Boston.
You're outside Boston, right? Okay. Yeah. The other city with a big Nike HQ.
Yeah.
So in Portland, we do a lot of like digital distribution for music. Most people don't think of Portland as a music city. And I would argue like we don't have record labels and we don't have a ton of like huge stadiums to play music in, but we have all of the digital distribution. So companies like Discogs, companies like DistroKid, and the biggest of them is a company called CD Baby. And they are how music has been digitally distributed since the early 2000s. They've been around for a very long time. They're huge, big company. They're a big backbone of the music industry and specifically the indie market. So they're working with Spotify because the music that gets on Spotify has to go through a distributor. And Spotify has this AI issue with people just uploading. The country song that I'm talking about that's on the Billboard chart is genuinely like listenable. It sounds like a country song. It is what it is. But Spotify's got a real issue where there's a lot of AI slop that is just like one prop generation to flood the system. So that stuff has to get distributed. It doesn't just like for the listeners who don't understand how the system works, you don't get to just open up Suno, make a garbage song on Suno or Udio or whatever music generation tool you want and hit upload to Spotify. That's not how it works. You do have to go through a distribution. So there's a step in between that is not automated So a person is uploading these thousands of songs. So the way to stop it is by stopping it at the source, which is at the distribution company, which is where CD Baby steps in, where I think DistroKid's going to step in, these other companies that put this music out there. And they're working to create a system that stops the deepfake vocals, the unauthorized AI voices, all of these things that are problems, flooding playlists. Because as indie musician, you might put your song out there, and someone can add that song to a playlist. And if that playlist gets botted with a bunch of other AI songs, Spotify has to take that down. And when they do, they wipe all of those songs off their system, which means like, yes, you're deleting all of these AI slop songs, but there's that one indie artist who got on that playlist who didn't even put themselves on that playlist. Yeah. Someone else did it. And now their song is removed from the database and they didn't do anything wrong. So this is kind of where the AI versus human comes to a head, where like there are people are actually being negatively impacted. Their art and their music and their livelihood are being removed off of Spotify because the system can't tell the difference.
But there's a question that'll come up with that, though, because you think about it, like I have used Suno, like I mentioned earlier, and I know that if you have like a Suno Premium, you own the distribution rights. You own the copyright for the music that's created under your name on Suno, which is fine. There was that band, the Velvet Sundown, that put out a couple of albums on Spotify. Everything about them was AI, but they never talked about it being AI until about 2 albums had come out. There's a guy I've recently found because I was looking for retro soul, guy named Nick Hustles, which is not a real band, but plays really great and authentic sounding music. It seems like there's a bit of a joke in everything they're doing. But what's interesting is that if we think about, where is that level of art and creation sit? And, what was it? Frank Zappa had Jazz from Hell, where he just used the demo on his synclavier as a way of being able to create a whole series of songs that came out. Really amazing stuff. I can still hear it in my head as I'm sitting here talking to you. There are lots of different things that have happened over the course of, are the maturation of our culture, where automations of various kinds have been brought in, from, drum machines to,
sure,
to the things that in your ear, so you know when things are happening, and lots of different ways of
I mean, auto-tune makes people who can't sing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally.
And so there's a level of like, are you using this to replace, or are you using this to augment? And I think that's the core.
And that's where the copyright really actually comes into play, because you said something that is partially true, and that is that you, in these premium services, blah, 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 they like to say like you own the copyright, blah, blah, blah. Copyright in the United States is a very wishy-washy concept, and the current debate right now is if something is entirely AI generated, you can't copyright it, right? Like that's the accepted from the Library of Congress approach, from my understanding. Could change tomorrow. Who knows? But right now there has to be some human input outside of a prompt that moves us forward. So, for example, okay, I use Suno or I use Udio or one of these music generation tools to generate a song, but I write the lyrics into the text prompt and it sings those lyrics back. That, I believe, is actually subject to copyright protection because you wrote those lyrics. Now, if it generates those lyrics and it also generates the music, and all you did was say, make me a jazz song in the style of Ella Fitzgerald that's about Pop-Tarts, that there's no copyright there. If you write those lyrics, then perhaps. I see it as a really unique opportunity for like hip hop music to find new ways to sample music, to get it into like legitimized music without having to like deal with the clearances and things like that. That's always been a big part of it. But I do find it very interesting that at least Spotify has admitted to the problem. And I believe they found the right solution of going and teaming up with the distribution companies and cutting it off at the source. Now, it does put a lot of weight on those companies to come up with a solution for making sure that their music that they're distributing is actually human-based. It's going to be in the terms of service and things like that, but that doesn't mean people read those terms of service and things like, So we'll see how it goes, but I don't know. I'm hopeful.
I'm with you on that. And also, I know about the distribution part of it, I think is really important to make it so you can't just, hit Control P and print this on Spotify and add it to a playlist. To have that moment of reflection, even if it's intentional in the workflow, where you have to step out and have it vetted by human or have it passed through. I think that is really important to it. I'm curious, though, about as we mature in using AI in everything we're doing, will that become the way we've matured in using digital editing in all images? And will that mature in the way that we have been using, not necessarily like autocorrect for spelling, but for grammar? And where do we figure out where this line sits? I don't know the answer to it. I don't know how deep a
Anyone
question
who
it
tells you
is.
that they have the answer to it is lying to you. No, I don't think anyone really fully understands. We don't fully understand the legal implications of generative AI anyways, because we haven't solved the copyright question of scraping data. There's 1,000 different rabbit holes to fall down with this. And we will fall down with them in just a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more tangible, real-world news and discussion after this. You're listening to Tech Magic.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
All right, we're back with more Tech Magic. I'm Lee Keebler, and Cathy Hackl is not here with us this episode. Instead, we have Andrew Schwartz, the very person who dubbed Cathy the godmother of the metaverse, and also a former Nike alum with myself, although we did not know each other there. Yeah. So, Andrew, let's get into some more of the tangible stuff. You came from the metaverse side of things. You're very well versed in the metaverse. Did that mean I was a big proponent and still am of virtual reality? I think that the headsets are not for the people who are saying that, oh, it flopped, because I know the Gen Z, Gen Alpha are in these headsets, right? Like, they've got the right target audience. And if you're sitting here thinking no one wants VR, you're just too old. Like, that, it's not targeted to you. And that's perfectly fine. Big drop this week from Valve, who really kind of kicked off the 2015-2016 VR evolution cycle. They came out and just shadow dropped a bunch of content. New hardware for the controller. They have a new Steam controller. They've got something called the Steam Machine, which is basically their approach to a console. And we're not talking about the Steam Deck, which is kind of like the Nintendo Switch. This is an actual like console that sits next to your TV. It looks like a GameCube. It just does. But then they dropped a new VR headset. The first time that Steam has done inside-out tracking. It sits somewhere between mobile, like it can natively play games inside, but it is to be paired with a PC or with their Steam machine for like higher quality VR games. No price. No one knows what this thing costs yet. I didn't see it coming. It seems like a competitor for the Meta Quest 3. I'll probably be in line to get one. Probably. It depends on the price.
If you can tap into a different kind of software ecosystem with it and have, have comparable experience that you'll have with our MetaQuest, I think it makes a lot of sense. The big issue that we're all having is that those headsets, no matter how light they are still headsets and they're still difficult. I've got a couple of MetaQuest. I've got a Apple Vision Pro. I've got a bunch of other.
What did you think of the Apple Vision Pro?
Beautiful, both when you're wearing it and when it's sitting on my desk, where it spends a lot of time. And
say more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really like it, but it comes down to, for me, I think it's got great technology. And I think the experience that I had, the experience of using it is really, really fascinating and fabulous. That I can read paper while I'm wearing it is great. That I can just have the experience with that. I think that I think it's a really great first gen product for Apple for this space. And I think it shows a hell of a lot of promise. If you think about the first iPod that came out, I think there's a lot of space that's in there. It maps to. That means I think it should continue to be built out. I know I've had some really great experiences in it. It's been fun since they announced they were going to do spatial pictures in iPhone, I've been taking them. So I have, and this is years before I ever touched an Apple Vision Pro. So now I've got years of my kids and Christmases where I have 3D videos of it, and I've got these 3D experiences. It's really exciting and interesting. But again, go back to what we were talking about before. This is the technology first and the use of it later. And I think that that's where we stand with a lot of the stuff inside of the space. Like a headset's heavy and it can get cumbersome to use.
Yeah.
And until we figure out a better way of being able to present things, we're dealing with the trade-off. What's the really great experience? In movies, it was the Great Train Robbery. And where's the Great Train Robbery in VR? In video games, in PC games, it was Myst. And CD-ROM games, it was that was the thing that got people to want to buy and explore and expand.
Arcade, it was Pac-Man or Space Invaders is really what sold. Like the Atari 2600 sold because of Space Invaders.
Absolutely,
a game that they had to license themselves.
Yeah,
I actually think, if my history serves me right, that Space Invaders on the Atari 2600 was the first use case of saying like the killer. It wasn't called a killer app, but it was like the killer game that was that made the product sell. And for the iPhone, it had a ton of it, but it was ultimately Mail, right? Mail was the killer app of the iPhone. It was just done better. You didn't have to refresh. It just automatically showed up. That's what got people from the BlackBerry onto it. There was a lot of things about where the iPod was, but it was just the fact of 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's what sold it. They eventually were able to put movies and everything on it, and it all became one device in the future. You're absolutely right that VR has not had their killer app game. For some that has. For some, there's a whole subculture where it's VR chat, or there's a whole gaming culture where it was like Half-Life Alyx. There are some hits, but there's not. The closest might be Beat Saber was exactly what I was going to say. I think that was the closest we got, is a lot of people bought a headset because of Beat Saber. If you could change something in the Apple Vision Pro, like you could snap your fingers, you could change something, it would make you pick it up and use it today, what would that be?
I think that the biggest shift would be to make it just lighter, make it more of a visor than anything else.
Yeah.
And we're getting to that point. There's incredible technology. The biggest problem is powering. Like there are contact lenses and I don't want to suggest you put a chip in your head, but there are contact lenses that can work to be able to present stuff to you. I think that the use of what Meta's doing now with the on-screen displays on
those Ray-Ban displays, brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I mean, we were doing it. Google Glass started with that, and there are a lot of other spectacle-like things, like Snap has spectacles, and there are lots of different products that are like that. I think that we have a technology that needs to go through a few more generations of advancement before we get to the point of everybody kind of walking around with it unobtrusive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember all the videos as soon as Apple Vision Pro came out of people doing stupid things in real life, wearing them, from driving their cars to riding bikes to.
Really glad that kind of phased out quickly. I think people realized like, oh, these things are actually heavy. That was always kind of my thing with the Apple Vision Pro. It is an amazing piece of technology. As soon as it came out, I said, I think the problem that I had with it is there's $3,500 worth of technology in that headset, but there's not $3,500 worth of experience.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah.
Because I don't know how you make that cheaper. It is the most powerful all-in-one headset that I've seen. I wish they hadn't made it out of metal and glass. That would have done a little bit better on the weight. And I thought offloading the battery was actually a good thing. But I do wish that there was more oomph behind that experience. And maybe we'll get there. It is key for a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. To close on it, I think Apple Vision Pro is a great product, and it's a great product to teach people. I used to think, I use this phrase a lot, like you have to teach people to read before you can sell them a book. And then after that, they understand what literature is. But the idea of getting people comfortable within a new medium is important. I think Apple has done a really great job of elevating ideas into these instructional modals that people can use. I remember years ago when the watch was just coming out, I was talking with some folks at Apple, and they said, we're not the people that want to do something first, but we want to do it so that when you use our product, you can't think of using this type of product in any other form than what we've got. And you think about how they made the candy bar phone, the iPhone, the iPhone. And you think about the way the watch works. You even think about the way MP3 players were before the iPod was out.
Oh, yeah.
And all of these things are changed because of the way that Apple manages every aspect of what they do. And it's not a matter of, I think, of them making any mistakes. I think it's the evolution of where the technology is going. But I also think you're right that it has to come from really great content utilizing this. And some of that has to do with the people who are experiencing it, learning what to expect. And some of it has to do with people who are building it, thinking about what other barriers they can break to bring the story out that they're trying to tell.
I think content is clutch for all of these things. And that's a good segue to the next story, because a lot of people are only aware of technologies like augmented reality because of games like Pokemon Go, right? A lot of people think that Pokemon Go was some amazing revolution in augmented reality technology. It really wasn't. It was successful because it was Pokemon. It just happened to use AR. Now, I can't tell you as a developer who's been in the space how many times I've had people come up saying, I want to develop a thing that's like Pokemon Go, but it does this, right? Like it's their own, I don't know, AI prompt regurgitation nonsense. I actually had one time, and I had to tell them no, because I just couldn't bring myself to do it, but I had a church that had the budget to build a Pokemon Go style app that they wanted to build where kids could go around and find scripture in their neighborhoods and things like that. And I was just like, I think there's better use for the church's funds than me building a Pokemon Go ripoff. So I kindly declined. I'm sure they found someone else to build it. I don't think the idea went away, but it is funny that we saw that kind of happen, and then it did its course, and I thought that was the end of it. And then this week, Engadget's reporting that we're getting a theme park based on this concept. So Pokemon is getting a permanent theme park in Tokyo, which is where it always starts, right? They always kind of like make sure it works. Opening in 2026. This isn't some like, 2035, like 10 years from now, next year, a Pokemon theme park in Tokyo, which is completely driven by AR and location-based technologies. We don't know much more than that, but have you been to like the Universal Studios and gone to like the Super Nintendo World? And
I have not been there yet, to the Land of Legends or what is, I've not been to that yet. I'm excited about it. My 9-year-old is very excited to hear about the Pokemon theme park that's opening up. He's very excited. He wants to see.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. And they're going to be doing a combination of physical and digital things that are in there. And I think that's amazing. I think it's really interesting to think about how theme parks are ways to be able to express these cool ideas and this tool type of immersive storytelling. Because you can have, Pikachu walking down the street. You don't have to have glasses on to see him. You don't have to hold your phone up to see him. He'll just pop in there. And I think that's a really interesting way of being able to play through this. The power of that intellectual property, the power of that brand is immense. And I think it's exciting to see how it plays out. Pokemon Go was really important. And again, you're right. It's not for the AR part of it. Pokemon Go was important because of the micro-location that was part of it and the ability to be able to track and queue experiences based on where you stood and how close you were to things. The gameplay that came around from that was directly tied into how Pokemon played in the cards and the lore around it.
Right.
It was really very cool. And the other aspect of it is that you would end up getting people walking around and putting 10,000 steps together just trying to get to the next gym and play their games. Yeah, I think it's fascinating to see all these pieces coming together. And that's where, again, you get back to that, I keep repeating myself, but you get to the technology being a spice to the entree of the idea. That's what's really exciting. You get to this idea that the technology is not there on the forefront, but it's there to help create something that's really exciting for the people to use. And that's Pokemon Go did. And now we've got a theme park. We can go spend too much money and buy, t-shirts and hats.
I think it was the second day that Super Nintendo World was open in Los Angeles, I actually got to go. It wasn't the first day, but I think it was like the second day I got to go. And a good friend of mine who works for a lot of animation studios down there, he was able to get us passes and already knew how to like game the system. And we were there at like 7:00 in the morning, and it is near impossible to ride the Mario Kart ride more than once because it's just so busy. And we did end up to do it twice. So we got to go through it twice, which was really cool because I got in excitement of the first time, but then I got to actually kind of sit back and adjudicate what I'm experiencing as someone who was in the technology the second time. And it was a genuinely amazing experience. They did such a great job of not only integrating trackable AR into a Mario Kart world where it made sense and everyone could participate, but also in the entire world, they had a lot of NFC chip technology installed everywhere. If you're at Universal Studios, anyone who's listening, it is definitely worth the trip. I was so awe-inspired. I felt like a little kid. It was everything. You feel like you're just like teleported straight into Super Mario Land. But
that's the magic of tech magic.
It was the magic part. But watching it come together and seeing everyone participate, and it's that low barrier to entry. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how Pokemon. I expect more from this. I was very impressed with Super Nintendo World. I'm expecting way more from Pokemon theme park. I think it's going to be really great. And hopefully, maybe we'll actually get one in the US. I guess time will tell. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. We haven't talked about this before, but I'm going to close with this. Of the technologies that are buzzing around, the good and the bad, the positive feedback and the negative refusal of people just having that gut reaction of like, oh, I don't like this. Of all of the things that are changing, what's the one area that you are most excited for?
It's going to sound really boring, and I apologize for it. I'm fascinated by the idea of identity, and identity as a cue to tap into this digital world around us. An example of this is that in the EU right now, there's new legislation out that demands that digital product passports are part of every product. And this passport is an NFC chip that has a unique identity to it. And it shows the provenance, the pathway to production to the point of purchase for every product. But it means that every product will then have a unique identity to it. And that unique identity can then be tied to you. So that when you go someplace, you have an NFC experience, you have a QR code experience, you have a personal experience, everything you own can have some activation based on where you are. A way of being able to turn everything you own into a part of how you want to express yourself. And that identity of your products helps you move out how you want to see the world. Like you mentioned Apple Intelligence, and their story that they told back when they introduced it was the idea that you don't have to go to the airline to find out when your mom's coming into town. You just say, when's mom coming to town? And it shows you information. It's the beginnings of creating your filter for the world, your filter of what you want to hear from the rest of the world, how you want information brought to you, but equally how you want your information to go out, to give you more control over it. And the idea that every piece of identity comes back, everything you have comes back to an identity that then gets combined into you is something that's really fascinating to me, because that turns on any opportunity for technology, that turns on any opportunity for augmenting the reality that you live in. And I'm really interested in this and excited to see where it's going to go. I love the idea that you can, they used to have granimals when I was a kid, and kids would, like, the donkey would go with the donkey, or the giraffe would go with the giraffe. And that's how your clothes would go together. And the idea of being able to have this kind of identity built into your products would allow you not only to build out like your own clueless closet, but would allow you to be able to go out into the world and have...
What a throwback. I just want to pause that you actually threw out the clueless closet for
Absolutely.
a moment.
The clueless closet. I could go with like the what is it, the over you're out of Oregon, Portland, so I could do overboard, overboard closet that Kurt Russell built for Goldie Hawn in that movie. But the idea that you can you have this ability to be able to not only know what you have, but to be able to integrate experiences in the world around it is really fascinating, for access or for, care and feeding, or for connections to other people. I think there's something really interesting about this, because it gets back to, in an identity sense, the authenticity of the individual.
Yeah.
And we live in a space where authenticity is really important.
I agree.
Down to the use of AI. So those are the things that I'm really curious about right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this episode, but before we do, one, tell people how they can find you.
You can find me Elastic Ideas most places.
Okay. So the other one is, at the end of every episode, I suggest an album that I'm listening to that might not be known by most of our listeners, or Cathy suggests a book or a TV show that we're binging or something like that. So I'm going to throw that your way. What has your attention right now that you think everyone should look at, read, listen to? I
find myself going in and out of various music. One of my favorite bands is a group called SAULT, SAULT, out of the UK. And it's kind of retro soul, kind of neo soul, kind of new stuff. Cleo Soul is one of the singers in it. And it's a group that no one knows who's in. You don't know. It's set up as a mystery. I would say that, but it could be all AI. It could be all AI. There's a group that's out of Pennsylvania, a guy, Sun Little, who has a new song out called In Orbit, about to launch a new album. This is all just great stuff to listen to get you really, I don't know. It feels like the world has a little more heft to it when you listen to this. All right. But I will definitely say SAULT. The song Wildflowers is brilliant. And they put out about, 12 albums over the course of the last 4 years. Really incredible stuff.
All right, looking it up on my playlists right now. And for that, I have to say thanks for tuning in to Tech Magic, where we always invite you to come for the tech and stay for the magic. I'm Lee Keebler. The incredible Cathy Hackl is not here with us this week, so a special thanks to Andrew Schwartz for filling in. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
And another special thanks, as always, to Adweek for bringing this show to you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, just leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to connect with you. Just search for Tech Magic, Cathy Hackl, or me, Lee Keebler, or Andrew Schwartz. You'll find us. We'll be back with more Tech Magic next week.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. but real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.